We tell stories that we think are urgent. We tell stories that we think should be told. These include the greatest studying and understanding the greatest breakthroughs in science, technology, philosophy, political science, and translating them into really fun, exciting units of culture.
Hello everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Indianaut podcast, where we interview some of India's next best analytical and creative minds who are not only revolutionizing their own field, but at the same time transforming India's entrepreneurial ecosystem one step at a time.
Our guest for the day is the co-founder of Memesys Studios, a cutting-edge cinema studio behind OK Computer, and Insignificant Man and Ship of Theseus. A storyteller and game designer, in 2019, our guest created Shasan, the award-winning political strategy board game, kickstarted by the largest ever Indian crowdfunding campaign. Our guest is now designing and producing Azadi, the sequel to Shasan. We have with us Zain Memon. Let us jump right into the conversation. Hi Zain, I hope you're all settled in.
Yes, hi.
Awesome. Let's get started, shall we? So, Zain, you're a modern-day polymath, okay? So, the roots of Memesys Studios, which is yours and Anand Gandhi's brainchild, lie in filmmaking, politics, game design, and so much more, You were a creative producer of an Insignificant Man, which was released in 2017 to much fanfare, right? And then in 2019, you launched Shasan, which raised over $500,000, and I think is the most successful crowdfunding campaign ever to come out of India, right? So which is incredible, by the way. So I, as well as our viewers, would love to learn and understand Zain Memon and his entrepreneurial journey. So in your own words, tell us your Indianaut origin story.
Origin stories start when it's the most convenient and most dramatic. I don't know when the drama in my life begins, but before An Insignificant Man and before Shasan happened and before a bunch of the interesting things that you mentioned happened, what really changed it for me, what really worked for me is finding the right set of people. Nemesis has four co-founders. That's Anand Gandhi, Khushbu Ranga, Vinay Shukla, and me. And we and a few other friends, we met and we were not happy with what we were consuming or the state of Indian content in general. This is more than a decade ago. And we said, okay, if we were creators, what would we create? By this time, Anand had already made Ship of Theseus. Tumbar was well on the way. Also projects by the same team. Anand directed Tumbar too. And we set out to build a studio of our aspiration. And we in 2015, we set up Memesys.
Right.
The journey to Memesys was, I think, very interesting for me because I joined Ship of Theseus as an intern in 2013, around the turn of the year. And the film was already made, and the distribution and marketing was my own. And we didn't have the resources that otherwise enjoyed by Bollywood releases. So we had to get creative, we had to get inventive, and the internet had just happened. By internet just happened, I mean, India had just entered the internet, entered social media and internet usage in a big way, and so let's leverage that. UTV, the distributor what come on board then, made a very simple proposition. They said, prove to us that you have an audience in these cities, and if you do prove it to us, we will release the film in that city. And it was a simple social media campaign that went viral, and the film was earlier supposed to release in 4 cities. It ended up releasing in 31. It ran for 7 weeks, which was a big deal back then.
Right.
And an independent assessment of our news coverage put the organic media coverage in print and television to approximately 9 crore rupees. And we had spent a sum total of 0 on the film. So another already we did the difficult part. The difficult part, you create a product that's really good. Most entrepreneurs think marketing ho jata hai, but the first step is creating a product that's really, really good. That's not replicatable. We had already made Ship of Theseus. The job afterwards was easy, which was making it viral. So we did 2 things. One, our marketing was always pull marketing. People were coming to us. We weren't going out and throwing ads in people's faces. That's something that we follow even up till now. It's like, even if you think you are 1 in a million, there are 8,000 more of you. So find them. And most people aren't 1 in a million.
Right.
And then we kept building on what we had in terms of Ship of Theseus, and we said, okay, to make the film, we had shot 34 hours of footage.
Okay.
The final film is 134 minutes, 143 minutes, I'm not wrong. 143 minutes. And what happened to the rest of the footage? The rest of the footage didn't get used. Bad take, not the perfect take, deleted scenes. So we manually, because AI didn't exist back then, tagged 34 hours of footage with which character, what lines are being spoken, location, time of day, everything. Props being used, and we put them up for free on this platform called Padr.ma, run by this collective called CAM, which Shaina Anand and Ashok Sukumar run. And we said anyone can now take this film, take the footage, and run with it. Do whatever you want. The only caveat is that the copyright that applies is actually copyleft. Because we have given out for free, whatever you create from it also has to be given out for free. And we have seen over the years, we have seen colleges, students, editing aspirants, filmmaking aspirants just download truckloads of Ship of Theseus footage and just do their thing.
I think that would be the first open source project based out of India, right? I think that would be a fair assessment.
I don't know if first open source software project, but I'm sure the software community has done amazing work. But it's the first open source film project anywhere in the world.
Film project.
In the world.
Definitely.
Was the first open source film. Next year, we, Khushbu and Vinay, my co-founders, were already well underway shooting their magnum opus political thriller, An Insignificant Man. And of course, the tribe of people knowing what they were up to was very small back then. And we said, let's make the tribe bigger. So I led the crowdfunding campaign for that. And at that moment, that was the biggest crowdfunding campaign we had done. This is 2014. We had raised $120,000 approximately to make that film happen. And we made that film happen, and everyone knows what happened after that. It's on YouTube, by the way, if anyone's not seen it yet. And yeah, eventually Ship of Theseus and An Insignificant Man were given out for free on YouTube. One more interesting bit. Ship of Theseus was also an official torrent. We knew that the day the DVD would launch, a torrent would launch. It's but obvious, right? So we said, let's put the torrent out ourselves, because there's people watching the film in piracy and people watching the film in piracy on a bad print. What's worse? So we said, let's put the film out on torrent. And if you even, I think that torrent is still live somewhere. It starts with a video of the entire team saying, thank you for watching Ship of Theseus. It really means a lot that you're even pirating and watching it. Okay? This is a link. You can go here and donate whatever you think is right. If you think the film was worth 100 rupees of your money, give me 100 rupees. If you think it was worth 1,000 rupees, in the first 6 months of the torrent launching and the DVD launching, we made more money from the torrent than the DVD. Because we just went out there and believe in our community.
Right.
And that has become the ethos of our distribution, of our creation. Where like, there is a community out there. There are people who are starved for the content that we like to make. Let's go to them directly. Let's jump through all the gatekeepers. Let's jump through all the standard processes of distribution and go straight to audience. And that is what we have managed to do so far.
Right. No,
I don't know if it's the origin
remember...
story, but it's the origin of the ethos.
No, I think that's incredible, because in all of these projects, right, like everything you talked about for the Ship of Theseus, right, like if you tell this story to anyone, and if you omit the fact that it was released in 2012, right, even if you say all of these things today, right, people will still consider it one of the most future thinking and future forward projects of this time. But you did this a decade ago, which is incredible in itself. Right.
Thank you.
And like you said, right, you jump past all gatekeepers, right? While producers or filmmakers would try to fight tooth and nail against torrent distribution, that's what out and on. which is incredible and not thought of, to be honest. It just isn't thought of. I'm sure after you would have done this, there might have been a lot many more folks who might have done something similar in the future. But like that idea in 2012 is just incredible. Like I remember I used to I used to torrent stuff in 2012. So at that time, GBs were extremely limited in nature, right? So I would go to my friend's place because he had extra 30 GB left and it was the last one that I would go and torrent stuff. And at that time, I remember how difficult it used to be to try to find movies, TV shows, etc. But this is just incredible, Zain, absolutely incredible. And I'd love to follow this up on, now that we know the origin of your independent film project, background. Let's talk about the other aspect. Okay.
Sure.
So while you've been involved in Ship of Theseus and Insignificant Man and multiple other independent film projects, which have a very large audience community of takers in this country, I'm curious to understand, how did you get started in board game design? Okay. What drew you to that specific industry, which is also growing in India, but can be considered niche in nature as of now?
Definitely. So that two things that I want to allude to before I get to why board gaming. One is, as a studio, we are medium agnostic. We don't believe that we are a film studio. We don't believe we are a game studio. We are a storytelling studio. What kind of stories that we tell? We tell stories that we think are urgent. We tell stories that we think should be told. These include the greatest studying and understanding the greatest breakthroughs in science, technology, philosophy, political science, and translating them into really fun, exciting units of culture. Now, once we know what story we want to tell, we then go into how we want to tell it. In that process, in 2014, we also started India's first virtual reality studio.
Okay.
And we built everything from our own hardware to our own software to processes and narrative techniques. And we told stories about coal mines in Korba, floods in Bihar, protests in Gujarat, the making of Dangal, ad films for Jio and Flipkart, everything. The entire gamut of virtual reality. I was leading that vertical, and we were doing reasonably well, but the technology itself faltered. It was the third coming of virtual reality which had flopped. Hopefully the fourth coming will survive.
I think the jury's still out.
Yeah, jury's still out, yeah. If Facebook stock for Indian go by, the jury is in. My medium of consumption, primary medium of consumption, the medium I'm native to is gaming. I started gaming when I was 3 years old. By gaming, I don't mean board gaming. I started playing games when I was 3 years old. By games, I mean video games, modern games. And I really started loving the medium. I had 450 games on the PS1, a few hundred on the Xbox, and PC gamer since I was 10, 12 years old. And gaming is something I really, really wrote to. And that includes board gaming. Even before Shasan, I had a sizable board game collection. Now, what basically happened after that was we made a film, we made An Insignificant Man, and the story of An Insignificant Man wasn't complete. We wanted to tell the story. Well, there's so much Khushbu and Vinay, and through Khushbu and Vinay, we had learned about modern politics. They had been inside the war room of a political party and in rallies, and then they've spoken to more voters than most people have. They've spoken to most politicians than most people have, and we had learned so much. So how do you translate this? And to which my response was, if the story needs to be experiential, you need to know firsthand what it's like to be in that room. People need to have the same experience that you are having right now when you tell me. The story of a film is, I saw this and this happened to something else. How do I make it first person? And we started thinking the game through. Given the sources we had at that time and given the expertise we had at that time, we said instead of making a digital game, a physical game works better, not only because of the resources, but also because I wanted people to sit across the table from each other and talk about politics. Something a ritual that we have long forgotten. We don't talk about politics with people we disagree with. We only talk about politics we agree with. We fight about politics with people we disagree with.
Yes.
And so we get people to talk about politics. And by politics, I mean the art of policy making and not the policy makers themselves. And that's a huge distinction.
Right.
What defines us as left or right or center? It's how we think the laws should be structured. So let's talk about these laws, not about who you support and what this family or this party did 20 years ago.
Right.
So we made Shasan, where the core mechanic of Shasan is policy questions. You can do everything else. You can skip everything else in a turn. The only thing you can't skip is a policy question.
Right.
And that's how Shasan began. Same ethos. We try and make the best possible product we can, tell the best possible story we can. Once that is done, go straight to the audience. We didn't approach Funspool or Hasbro, anyone. We just said, okay, is there an audience out there that's going to buy a game? And the answer was yes, it's on Kickstarter. We went to Kickstarter, very jittery. We were very scared of whether we pull it off. But the community was super supportive. Everyone from the team at Kickstarter to the tabletop community at large was very supportive. And we sold Shasan, and it sold more than what most people expected. And like you mentioned earlier, became India's biggest Kickstarter. The crowdfunding itself of Kickstarter and post-Kickstarter revenue that came from backer kit was $650,000-$700,000, which was more than what most people had expected. And the game then shipped to 75 countries around the world, got great reviews, got a few awards. We won the Indiecade, by the way. And the Indiecade is not only for board games, the Indiecade is for games in general. And we won the Indiecade for best social impact game that year. So it's been going been going great. And now we have an entire games lab, entire board games lab called Nemesis Games, which does Shasan, which has done Azadi, that's the follow-up Shasan that ships this year, and has 20 games in development, 5 games in final stages right now.
Right. That's incredible. That is absolutely incredible. I personally look forward to the games coming out of Memesys Games, to be very honest. Honestly, I'd like to share my personal experience with Shasan, right? Like we were just talking before we started this recording, right? Shasan was actually one of the gateway games for me. It got me into the world of board gaming. While it wasn't the first game I played, the concept of Shasan and, just reading about it, going through all of the promotional material that you had put out via Kickstarter and looking at that beautiful game design, right? I was just so intrigued by the world of complex tabletop games or, complex card games. And that is what actually got me into this world, into this space. And I have actually played Shasan with friends of mine, with close friends of mine who were not into gaming whatsoever, and even then I received such positive reviews because it has a large appeal to the casual wider audience of India as well, because everybody loves politics, right? Everyone's an armchair politician in our country. So this is the best way to explore that medium. And I think one very critical aspect that you mentioned, right, that everyone who follows politics, everyone is political in nature. They will have their own set of opinions around ideologies, right? Some might be center of left, some might be center of right, some might be extremely conservative, some might be extremely liberal, some might be socially conservative or economically liberal. Like there's a multiple
variation thereof, yeah.
A lot of variations there are, right? But you don't follow a person, you follow an ideology. And I think that distinction, like you mentioned, is extremely critical and important. Yeah. And a game like Shasan actually showcases that really well, right?
Yeah. And the mode we went for was we wanted people to be on the politician side to understand what goes on in their head. And when you zoom out, in Shasan you place those voter pegs on the board, right? Those cardboard chits or the wooden board, depending on which version you have. And when you zoom out, you are that person. You are not the politician in real life. You're that person who gets gerrymandered, who gets discarded, who gets converted, who gets,
Absolutely correct. That is absolutely correct.
Yeah.
And I think the best part about Shasan was that it wasn't just made from the Indian context, right? You released campaigns which can be like, there was a US specific campaign. I believe there was one European
Brexit.
ancient
It's a
era
Brexit campaign.
campaign. Right.
That's ancient Rome. Yeah, that's ancient Rome
Ancient
campaign.
Rome. Yeah. So there was a wide variety of campaigns that actually make the game much more playable at an international level, not just a national level per se. And I think that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and initially, 93% of my audience was non-diaspora international.
Okay.
The Indian market is just growing. Even now,
right.
A large part of my audience is the Essential Edition that you mentioned. Is something that S3E5 designed only for Indian market. Designed specifically for your friends who say, okay, but I'm not going to spend 6,000 or 9,000 on a board game. Shasan did retail for that much worldwide, right? So we have this 3,500 rupee version right now for India, which has the exact same gameplay, exact same feel of Shasan, but at a much more affordable price point.
Definitely.
To grow the Indian market. The Indian, like you mentioned, it's a niche, but we are trying to figure out a niche and get that critical mass of few 100,000 players in India.
Definitely. And I think while there are lots of people in our country who will purchase the 6,000 edition of the 9,000 edition specifically from that collector's value, because there is, like you and I were discussing, there is a serious growing community in various parts of the country. There's one in Goa, there's one in Bombay, there's in Delhi. It's a growing community. The one in Bangalore as well, right? But then there are people who will buy the 6,000 version or the 9,000 version. But yeah, the 3,500 version or the 2,500 version, that the essential edition, that is the one which is more the kind that will be purchased by more Indians in our country who might want to buy just a single game per se.
The audience is an order of magnitude higher.
Right.
At least, and we are going after the audience. We are designing a product to go after the audience, but we're also designing a product to work in a game as a service model. The idea is we make Shasan and you buy Shasan, and that's your buying. 3,500 rupees is a buying. But eventually we want to, and we have designed the game to allow for repeated purchases. So you don't have to go in and buy every add-on or every expansion pack.
Right.
You play the game 4 times and like, yeah, now I want more variety. Now I want more rules.
Right.
And you keep buying add-ons and different expansions, and the idea is that we keep serving the customer for a lifetime with the same game, because there's one thing that games have, which is familiarity. There's a reason you go to any house and start playing Uno. There's a certain familiarity to it. Now, if I could keep adding more and more ancillary objects to Uno to make the Uno experience better, you are more likely to buy in than to say, should I buy Sushi Go or no?
Right. I think
make Shasan a lifestyle product. Yeah.
Right, definitely. And I think what you are referring to are the campaign packs that are available, right? You can purchase multiple campaign packs. You can, I think, even expand expansion packs as well as campaign packs, right? Campaign mix.
There's campaign packs, there are additional game modes.
Right.
There are additional rule sets. There's an entire new expansion called Azadi, which is twice the game Shasan was in every possible way.
I look forward to playing that. But let's actually deep dive into Azadi now. Okay. So in 2022, you launched Azadi on Kickstarter. Okay. Which, like you mentioned, is a standalone sequel to Shasan, right? And so my question is, between launching Shasan in 2019 and Azadi in 2022, what key lessons did you learn from both a go-to-market perspective as well as a board game design perspective that you have implemented in Azadi?
So Azadi was co-authored by Abhishek Lamba. They came on board. They were one of the game developers on Shasan, and then rose to the occasion of Abhishek rose to the occasion of being a great author and just having the best ideas and work ethic. So we brought Abhishek on board, and Abhishek co-authored Azadi with me. And there were a lot of learnings. For example, when we were designing Shasan, we were constantly second guessing the audience. Not out of a disdain for the audience or for looking down at the audience. We were unsure. I was an unsure author. It was my first board game. If it was film or television, we would be more confident. But it was a new medium, a new audience, and like, will people understand this? Will people like this? And the audience gave us so much confidence and love that we're like, okay, there's an audience out there. Let's just design the best possible product we can. Let's not second guess the audience the least bit. And that is what changed the product design. We made a game that we would fundamentally enjoy more than anyone else. There were other logistical learnings which I won't get into, which is SKU counts and GS1 numbers, all of that. Those are entrepreneurship learnings. But one more thing we learned was that you don't... So when we made Shasan, it was originally called Manifesto.
Okay.
Well, first 6 months of its development was called Manifesto, and we were workshopping the name. The name was looking great in India. But when I went internationally and I used the name, there are two things I realized. One, the Americans had scrubbed every word that was even remotely communist from their lexicon.
Right.
Then the word manifesto is related to communist, but the Communist Manifesto. Hence, the Americans don't use it. They don't know what it means. They use the word platform in the same. What is your platform? What is the party's platform?
Right.
That word meant nothing to them, and two, it communicated nothing about the game apart from the fact that some politics.
Right.
So we went back to the drawing board, said, okay, what is it that makes our, like, what should we be naming the game? We went through over 200 deals, and we finally locked onto Shasan. Shasan was spelled Shasan if you were to translate it. And I have a habit that when I name a product, I open a font website and I see the name in 200 different fonts. Just to see, because it's a brand ID, right? It has to look like a brand ID. And I was playing around with it. The name worked for me. Phonetically, the name worked for me, Shasan, but visually did not. Or alpha, And then I deleted the second A. So it's Shasn.
Right.
And that worked. And we workshopped the name. They didn't know what it sounded like, but it sounded cool and exotic, my audience at large. But what it also gave me confidence was to go out there and really claim the Indianness of the products we are launching. We consume products from Japan that have entirely Japanese names. We consume products from France which have entirely French names. Why is it that I had the doubt that a game from India need to have a English word as a name? And we went with Shasan, and the branding paid off. We went with a black and silver box that looked like something out of Weird Gatsby, and that paid off. It just gave us more confidence into designing Azadi. And in Azadi, we didn't tell the white story primarily. We didn't tell the European story primarily. We said, okay, what are the campaigns we want to see? So the Indian independence campaign, or what we are calling the South Asian campaign, because it contains the history of more than one nation. There is
of course.
The Egyptian Tahrir Square campaign in the game. And we realized that there's a vacuum that has been created. I'll give one more example. A month and a half before Shasan launched, another game launched on Kickstarter. It was the second edition of a game called Die Marker.
Okay.
Now, Die Marker has historically been the quintessential political board game. So much so, this is apocryphal, but the first game on Board Game Geek ever to be listed was Die Marker.
Oh, okay. It's that old.
It's this German classic from 1980s.
Okay.
And anyone I would say I have political games, say, yeah, Die Marker, the political game. That was the only reference they could make. And it launched a month and a half before. Launching a month and a half before was already scary for me. Because I was like, when you're shopping for board games, like, okay, I have one political board game, one fantasy board game, one Star Wars board game.
That's it.
I thought people's shelves of one political board game would fill up by Die Marker second edition. And the second thing that scared me was Die Marker second edition raised $200,000 odd on Kickstarter.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, okay, that's my ceiling. That's, if the game with such a great brand value and all that is making $200K, that's my ceiling. Right? So expect less than half of that. Uh, but what happened was, whenever I went around talking to people, I'm making a political game. It's like, don't make a political game. People don't want to discuss politics in their board gaming room. And this echo chamber had done so many rounds that nobody had made a political game since Time Ago. They had made games which are political, but were themed with either animals or space.
Right.
Or that they didn't have the political theme to it, and political theme, if it was very specific to one time and period. So 1960 making of a president, Twilight struggle, not Imperium struggle. They were and very academic GMP style games made actually published by GMP. So there was this huge void in the market, which then Shasan filled up.
Right.
And we did more than twice of what Time Ago did, and I was like, wow, that's reassuring.
Awesome. That's absolutely amazing. So, Zain, you mentioned that there are a few entrepreneurship learnings as well that you got through the journey. I would love to learn some of your key, we'd love to hear about some of the key critical learnings that you also picked up from Shasan that you implemented in Azadi.
Sure. Azadi Shasan was selling at a $90 price point, right?
Okay.
Plus shipping, plus taxes, all of that, right? We were fundamentally thinking, how do we price Azadi? How will people understand the complex pricing structure of Azadi? Will people be able to come on board? One thing that, and the Kickstarter, John Ritter from Kickstarter has said this on record multiple times. There's a few videos out there on YouTube that he mentioned that it was the best run Kickstarter campaign. And what does that mean? Does it mean that we were responding on time? No, it means that as an entrepreneur, I decided to actually bring stakeholders on board from the audience. So everything from the design of the product to rules that work to wouldn't work to proofreading to actually having people evangelize the product and in return be immortalized in the game as a character were all things that we learned through Shasan and became the core of my product design and my distribution strategy for Azadi. The second thing I learned was that large-scale influencer marketing, noisy product branding does not work. Everyone is going out there being the clutter breaker by hiring the next new face to sell the product. And marketing in the classical sense that D2C brands do, which is spend CAC, gain customer, does not work. Spend CAC, get customer doesn't always work. Unless your product really ties up the customer in, the customer is going to come on board, buy your product, and then vanish. And you're going to eat into your bottom line like crazy. So we decided not to spend too much on advertising. We decided not to spend too much, not to rely on influencers to sell the product, but instead really make a compelling product and reach out straight to the audience and have really strong on-ground presence. So unlike other D2C brands, we choose to spend our CAC money more intelligently than just go out there and say, oh yeah, here's an ad, keep watching the ad 200 times, and hopefully perhaps maybe someday you'll buy the game. We do performance marketing. I'm not saying we don't, but that's not our core business. At the same time, really rely on the power of community to sell the game. So we have a very active Discord community, very active Telegram community. Our board game geek forums are great. The audience, the people on the platforms do a very good job of answering questions, getting people on board, and it all in all is a really, really healthy customer space for us. So moving forward, like I mentioned, we have 5 games in the pipeline. And then none of them will be launched with a huge marketing spend, but huge buzz. The thing that happened with Ship of Theseus happened with an Insignificant Man, happened with Shasan. If you are tuned into culture, then why is it you haven't heard of these products? That is what the buzz in the market was, and that is exactly what we'll keep doing. And we, I think, as entrepreneurs, have learned how to do that.
Definitely. I think that that's a throwback or a callback to your days working on the Ship of Theseus project, right? From there itself, you learned the value of community and instilling your project deep into the community and working with the community to actually rise and grow.
Exactly.
And by the way, then I would like to I can personally attest to the I'm a part of the Discord channel, okay, and it has happened that once or twice I've tabled the game and I might have, say, a quick query or something, right? And I actually just write it on the Discord channel. And I remember I was playing the game around 1 in the night, right? Around 1 a.m. I'm playing Shasan with a couple of my friends, and we have a query, right? And it's led to a huge debate, that query. And I write that on the group, and you actually responded to me at 1:15 with the resolution.
So I'm nocturnal. I'm at this just 3 in the morning.
Yeah, so that was pretty incredible for me, that not only can I enjoy this game with my friends, I know that there are a lot of people who are a part of those Discord channels who have similar interests to mine, who are playing this game, experiencing it in real time, and sharing their experience with us, which is incredible. And I think you
so if
truly
you
have
the Discord channel,
the...
the Discord channel, it's me or Abhishek or someone from my team doing it, but very often it's a random person from another part of the world saying, "No, this is how it works. This is how it works."
Right,
that's really reassuring.
Definitely. I've seen that happen a bunch of times, and I think that's incredible. Yeah. Okay, Zen. So let's move ahead. Okay, let's talk about your favorite subject, politics. Okay, so your projects have been deeply and largely been associated with politics, from Insignificant Man to Shasan and even Azadi, right? I want to understand one thing. How do you balance your personal political beliefs with the desire to create, engaging and entertaining content that appeals to a broad audience?
Sure. So this debate raged on in the office for weeks, if not months. What is the politics of Shasan and Azadi?
Right.
Is the game liberal? And we put the question, what does it mean? What does that mean? Is the game liberal? Is the game conservative? What does that mean? Does that mean that the game will benefit or help or be better if you play the game as a conservative or play the game as a liberal? And we debated this. And the idea was that the game itself should be a mirror to society.
Right.
So if you have played the game and you know that the game has political opinions from across the spectrum.
It does,
right?
Yes.
It has opinions. Each policy has 2 opinions, which are contradictory to each other. And I personally can't hold both opinions. That's not possible for me intellectually.
Right.
But those opinions exist and strategically are both viable options. So the core basic fundamental of Shasan, of my agenda with Shasan, and yes, I do have an agenda. And the agenda is that people talk about politics in a healthy way.
Right.
And as long as they talk about politics, as long as the conversation is constructive, I know for certain that the end result of that conversation is going to be a healthier, better, more just political space for everyone. It might not completely align with where I stand. It might not completely align with where the current establishment stands, but it will be squared. It will be somewhere in the middle. And that spectrum is what I'm interested in, than the corners.
Right.
Otherwise, conversation happens, the society will self-correct. Quorum sensing will happen, and we will arrive at a politics that is a reduction of the sum of its parts. So that is my agenda. I have a very strong political agenda, and my political agenda is, let's talk about politics. That's it.
Definitely.
Everything else,
Definitely.
when you go into small issues like abortions or religion or whatever, I might have my opinion. But Shasan does not necessarily respect that opinion. As a matter of fact, a lot of the opinion in Shasan, more than half the opinion in Shasan, are things I'm like, I cannot even remotely subscribe to this.
Right.
And they are across the spectrum,
Right. Definitely. And I think I recall whenever I played Shasan, I think one of the biggest lessons here is that it actually teaches you that even ideology for the common man is quite fluid in nature, right? you're not strictly, like you said, you're not strictly at a corner, you're not strictly prescribed to just one ideology. And that is something that, came with Shasan as well. We were holding cards from each of the colors, right? Each of the different ideologies. And we were forming opinions, like we were not simply strictly following the opinion, which was related to one ideology. We were choosing answers from all four. And I think that's how the common man is, right? No one is strictly into one, following one topic. There's a wide variety of opinions. They might even change over time, right? And I think that's something that the game also reflects quite well.
Yeah, and there's one more thing, right? There's as a voter you have a range, but as a politician in Shasan, you try and stick to one ideology. So you may not necessarily say things that you believe in, but you say it because you're like,
listen, you have to. The game is built that way.
Yeah.
At the very end, I recall at the very end, because I remember there were some milestones that you achieve if you get a certain number of cards belonging to one ideology, right? I remember we were just giving answers which we felt were the maximum which were prescribed to that ideology, just to get the card, right? Just so we could win.
And that's what politicians do.
Yeah, that's what they do. Definitely. It's absolutely all around beautiful stuff. So then following up on this, right? My next question for you is that what role do you think board games and films have in sparking conversations and dialogues around political issues? And do you see your work as a form of activism or advocacy?
I'll have to zoom out a little over here, and the answer is slightly long. I'll try paraphrasing later for sake of the edit, but let's go for it. Okay. What fundamentally differentiates humans from other higher order mammals? The fact that fundamentally differentiates us is that we are able to translate or transmit data non-biologically in very, very dense units horizontally, which means that other animals communicate data genetically mostly. Very little data is retained non-genetically. We can retain data non-genetically, which means you can write it down, we can tell stories, we can make academic papers, we can build institutions. Storytelling, or the art of translating the data, is hence one of the most fundamental things that differentiates us and the fundamental strengths that we have. And that's why we approach it as Memesys. I mentioned this earlier, we try to tell the most important stories in the most urgent way possible, in the most exciting way possible. Of late, the stories have been of political opinion. We also tell stories of science. We tell stories of philosophy. We tell stories of hunger and greed. And the reason we do that is we think that these epiphanies that we have had the privilege of receiving, simply because we have an academic or a disposition that allows us to consume more dense information. I think it is our job and our duty to be able to translate these insights, scientific, philosophical, political, to people at large in more consumable packets of information. So I wouldn't call it advocacy. I wouldn't call it activism. I would call it a responsibility. And be it things about everything from nuclear physics to political theory. We try to make sure that our information is, one, true. Second is inclusive and helps more people and doesn't disparage or hurt anyone. By hurt, I mean people in privilege. Again, I'm going to paraphrase Periyar over here. In an argument between someone who is a majority religion and a minority religion, I stand with the minority religion. Within the higher caste and lower caste, I stand with the lower caste. Within the husband and wife, I stand with the wife. What Periyar was trying to say was, when you're trying to talk about policy, you have to look at the simple question of chui bono. Who does it benefit? And that's what we do. Is our work reinforcing a negative stereotype about a minority? Then that's bad. Is it uplifting or breaking archetypes? Then that's a good thing. The idea is that there are structures that exist in the world, and we need to bring those structures and make the world more inclusive. not towards any one community, towards the world in large. So it's not specific to one religious group or one gender expression or identity. And our stories try and do that. I ask my team every time we make something, why are we telling this story? Who are we telling it for? Why are we telling it now? And lastly, why are we telling the story? Are we the right people to tell the story? Is it our experience to share? And once the story goes through this filter, we decide to make it. So we felt 75 years of independence, global unrest around democracies. Let's make Azadi. Highly polarized family conversations, highly politicized media. Let's make Shasn. There's one more game coming out this year about manufacturing news.
Okay, all right. That's awesome.
So, yeah. So that's what we're doing, basically.
Understood. I think, Zen, quoting you, I don't think it was a long answer, right? I think that was beautifully put, right? And I definitely understand what you say, that there is that responsibility to be able to document this kinds of information, as well as to disseminate it, and as well as share it with the wider audience.
Yeah.
And I think you've chosen beautiful mediums for that. Definitely.
Thank you.
So Zen, my next question for you is quite simple. What's next for Zen Memon? Okay.
So next is, like I mentioned, Memesys Games is on entity now. We make games. We have a few fun games coming out. One game that is that a young creator and from Memesys and I co-created, which is quite unlike anything we've ever created before.
Okay.
It's a game about raccoons making macaroons. It's a fun project we did, and we're launching it this year. It's called Maca Raccoon. That's one of the many things I'm doing this year. There is, and I haven't said this, I posted about this publicly. There is the Shasan debate show.
Oh, awesome. That is
again, how do you take the Shasan identity, brand, ethos, and take it to more people? We said, let's do something that the world has forgotten, which is a healthy political debate based around facts and not fiction, where people talk like civilized adults. And we said, okay, who is the best person to stand for this neutral, clean, intelligent debate system? And all of us unanimously thought there's one journalist who's like that, Faye D'Souza.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we reached out to Faye, and Faye's been kind and amazing as she is, has agreed to come on board. So the Shasan debate show is going to be a traveling debate show across the country, talking about policy that we need to talk about, and also going to be telecast. So that's happening this year.
That is amazing. That is incredible. Right.
So the Shasan debate show is happening this year, and lastly, we have there's this project we've been working on quietly for the last 3 years, Anand and I, called Maya.
Okay.
Maya is a high fantasy universe.
Okay.
It's large. It's in its scope. It's very Indian in its nature. It's so far a few thousand pages of writing that has gone through it, and is going to be expressed in board games, films, digital games, TV shows, graphic novels, everything, starting this year.
That is incredible.
So again, stay tuned for more of it. We essentially nerded out more than we usually nerd out, and we built a world with 7 languages, 1,300 years of history, 8 species, 30 cities, all of that.
That is amazing. That is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, so those 3 things are happening. We have new games launching. We have Shasan debate show. And we have Maya. Maya will be a slow rollout, but stay tuned. And we're also launching digital games this year.
That is amazing.
Not Shasan though.
That is amazing. Right. Zen, whenever I ask this question to my guests, right, I usually receive very humble brags, or either I receive humble brags or I receive very subtle answers that, just some small teasers and all. Right now, your answer, it just felt like I'm at Comic-Con and I'm receiving this one, watching one headline convention show, and this is releasing, hey, by the way, we're releasing a debate show, we're releasing this, we're releasing that.
Yeah.
And I think world building, which you're doing right with Maya, is one of the most complex things that any kind of a creator can do at such a large scale, right? I have tremendous respect for the creators behind Dune. I have tremendous respect for George R. R. Martin. I have tremendous respect for Neil Gaiman, like these people, because they built universes which are not, like you said, not just prescribed to one medium, right? They go across the spectrum, whether it's graphic novels, board games, books, and now movies and TV shows, right? And I think something like that coming from the creative minds behind Shasan, Azadi, and Insignificant Man, and so much more. I think I really look forward to that the most, I believe.
Thank you so much. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. We as founders do tend to do some humble brag when we are asked.
No.
Yeah.
In fact, yours was not humble. Yours was not a humble brag. Yours was
just
pure facts. It was a pure fact, right?
Yeah.
Because usually what we receive are like we receive small answers here and there, but that was just incredible. Like that was a barrage of information that I was not ready for.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm excited about all of this. I'm excited about just building this universe out. By this universe, I mean the Shasan universe. That's its own cohesive unit right now. There is a non-fiction show in the works. There is a fiction show in the works for Shasan itself. Those are long tail.
That's all.
There are other board games that we are launching from the Memesys Games umbrella. So that's it.
Right.
What I managed to do, and what I've learned, and this is something I want to touch upon, is the media business is a business about building teams. And over the last 6-7 years, we have managed to build an amazing team of creators who sit with us and create things that blow our minds as producers. So now it's a matter of time of showcasing them to the world.
Definitely. That's incredible, Zen. That is absolutely incredible, and I look forward to each and every one of those projects. I'm also excited about Maca Raccoons. That sounds really fun. Okay, and just to understand, is it more of a family game or is it a complex game?
This one is a family light game.
That is awesome.
Yeah, simpler. It's easier. It's nauseatingly cute. It's a design brief.
That is awesome. That is amazing. And I really look forward to playing that as well.
Thank you.
Then I have one last question for you. As a board game designer, a filmmaker, a world builder, a storyteller, and so much more, what advice do you have for other aspiring creators in any industry or across the spectrum or across any medium?
I'm going to fall back on a quote by Banksy. The graffiti artist. Banksy once said, I meet many artists who are willing to die for their work. Very few who are willing to learn how to paint. And that's what I strongly believe in. If you want to be a creator and if you want to be acknowledged for your ideas, for your work, then the one thing you should focus on, and more than anything else, is just finishing your craft. And the act of finishing your craft is twofold. It is an act in humility, because it's an act in understanding that hey, what you just did in the first draft is actually garbage, and you need to destroy it and rebuild from scratch. And that's okay, because it's not a statement unto you. It's not a criticism of you. It is just a step in the process. Prototyping a step in the process. Don't take it personally. Learn from your mistakes, build more, and learn more importantly. If you're going to compete with the best in the world, the internet has allowed us to have the biggest platform in the world, has allowed us to showcase our world internationally, which also means there are thousands of more people like you doing the same thing. So you have to really put in the time and the effort and the smarts to do it. And part of that is just consume incessantly, and there's no reason to not consume and learn incessantly. Like, I consume an hour and a half of YouTube every day. There's no reason you shouldn't. And YouTube is the best source for learning, in my opinion, and the best OTT platform. And the second thing is build a community of kind critics, people who will support you, people who will love you for what you do, but who also won't lie to you saying, yeah, work is good, just to make you feel better. They have to be critics of your work, but have to be kind in their criticism. And I got lucky with that. I mentioned this start of the podcast. I met a group of the thing. My origin story is that I met a bunch of amazing people who are like-minded, and we are very harsh critics of each other's work. We try to be kind, but we end up being harsh. It's difficult. And I got lucky that way, but I do hope other people also get lucky and find that community, find peer groups. And if you can't find peer groups, find them online, find them on Discord, find them on forums, and just be honest with each other. And when you don't like someone's work, tell them you don't like someone's work.
Right. I think that's incredible, Zen. And I think that's wonderful advice for any aspiring creator who will definitely look at this podcast if they are interested in filmmaking or working in design. Thank you so much for taking all the time today. Thank you so much.
It's been
absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you joining us today. We wish you and Memesys the best of luck for the future. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for this episode. The Indianaut podcast is available on YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook to receive all updates on the upcoming episodes. We'll see you in the next one.